couple things stand out for me is obviously Ty Washington's health with Kentucky. That's a big deal because that takes away another guy who can create offense for himself and for his teammates. Obviously, in the last month, he's had a 17.17 assist game, which is significant. And then for Kansas, I just absolutely love Remy Martin. And Kansas is a different team when he's healthy. The burst and the speed that he has, whether it's off a ball screen situation or an inbounds after a made basket, that speed of his is real. And his decision-making when he gets into the gap after he flattens out the defense on the push is significant because it can create easier shots for Ochai or for Christian. And so I'm interested to see the health of both of those guys. So if Remy's healthy, that helps Kansas a great deal. Likewise, if Ty is not available, that benefits Kansas as well.
Playing here, how much does that environment like this in a game like this, how much does it benefit? I mean, you play big time. I mean, what's it mean to?
Yeah, I especially I think when you're younger, it impacts you more, and that's why I continue to go back to Ty. He has a maturity about him and a poise about him that's beyond his years. So it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to it. I didn't get the privilege of playing here when I was in college, but this is my third time here now. I actually called my first game for ESPN here against Radford. And my little simple story, I'll give you the shortened version of it, was about 60 minutes before the game, I had my headset on, getting ready. And I heard the sound. And again, I hadn't been here, so I didn't know what it was. About 5 minutes later, I took my earphones off and just could hear, it's Radford. It's, if I remember correctly, it was 10 degrees with a -2 wind chill. Wind blowing sideways, little snow, little ice, and place is packed. And of course, that chant is like legendary, and it's real. I love the fans here. I think it's a significant game changer for teams coming in, but it'll definitely help the Jayhawks tomorrow.
It's obviously early, but where do you see Shibwe and Ochai Agbaji in the race for National Player of the Year?
In my mind, they're probably, I just got off an airplane with 2 hours of sleep, so if I missed somebody, forgive me. But in my mind, the top three guys, you just named two, and I would throw Johnny Davis in there as the third from Wisconsin. What Ochai does throughout the course of the game, and now he's demonstrated that he's becoming an elite closer, is just significant to our game. It's cool to have one of the, throwing Oscar Shibwe in there now because Kentucky, one of our blue bloods who didn't make it to the NCAA tournament last year, they bring in a top 50 freshman and then get one of the more high profile transfers coming in. And what a year a day, what a difference those two have made in that team. And I mean, with what Shibwe does with his rebounding, what he does in terms of his speed, sprinting down the floor, shaping up in the middle of the lane, they'll give it to him, or he uses himself as a screener for either Xavier Wheeler to get to the rack or for Ty to get to the rack. It's significant to me to see two older guys in the age of one and done to be the leading candidates, and Johnny Davis, the leading candidates. I know he's a sophomore, but the leading candidates for the Wooden Award. I think it's significant for our game.
You talked about Ty playing 40 beyond his years. Mm-hmm. Most recent game for KJ Adams and the way he played in overtime, his contribution. Yeah. What did you see from that freshman?
It's just the same. And it's interesting because when you get into major programs like the Kentuckys and the Kansases of the world, you have guys who've been recruited who have the ability to be able to play. But sadly, they have some guys in front of them with a little bit more juice and that are significant players. And I love in significant moments to be able to shine. And that's exactly what he did. And that's another plus for Kansas, because now all of a sudden you're starting to develop some bench depth. I don't like to see guys get injured, but injury creates opportunity for other guys. And if those guys can step up and produce well, it ends up being a positive because you never know how it's going to go in the NCAA tournament where your two-star players pick up a couple of quick fouls. Now, can you go to your bench and not have much drop-off? That's another significant factor for Kansas, in my opinion.
on the, obviously talent on both sides on
Sure.
the floor, but what do you like about the coaching matchup? Is that almost as fun to watch for you?
It is, and I don't have the years of experience that Seth Greenberg and Jay Billis have. This is my 13th season with ESPN, and I played in the league for 11 years, and then was away from the game completely for about 6. So I don't have. I have this big gap to fill, but Bill Self, Hall of Famer, John Calipari, Hall of Fame coaches, and to have those two guys competing against one another on our network tomorrow is, I don't know. I don't know if you can ever. The only other person that I can think of that would be of significance that would be at that level would be Coach K, and so it's going to be fun watching those guys, because in my mind, Bill Self is one of the great strategists in all of college basketball, whether it be his pregame strategy going into the game on a global scale for the whole 40 minutes or coming out of a timeout. You don't get better than Bill Self. He's a genius when it comes to what I call special situations. And we've seen that in several of the close games that they've been able to finish out over the last 4 games. And so to have a couple guys like that, Hall of Famers, competing against each other tomorrow, it's going to be fun.
You see from that matchup inside between McCormick and Shwebley, and are there any other matchups that kind of catch your eye?
Well, that's, as a former big, that's the one for me. And Sheboy's been consistent all year long. He's not a good offensive rebounder. He's a great offensive rebounder. He has, as a former guy who used to enjoy rebounding, he has that want to. He comes in the game thinking that he's going to get every single rebound, and he goes after every single one of them as if he's going to get it. David, I've been a fan of for a long time. He got off to a slow start last year and then picked it up. There was this, I think it was 6 to 8 week period where he's playing like one of the best bigs in all of America. And I'd like to see him get back to that. I think we've seen that a little bit. I think he's 12 points a game and 8 rebounds over the last 2 games. So I think that matchup is important. Can David establish himself early, make Sheboy have to guard, and maybe pick up a couple quick fouls? Because if Sheboy goes out of the game, it changes them dramatically, because what he doesn't get credit for is how good of a defensive player he is. Ball screen situations, he moves his feet so well to redirect the guard that's coming off, that's trying to get into the lane. He communicates so well across the back line. So their defense is not as good. And obviously, there's not as good of an offensive rebounding team when he's not in there. And David is a pretty good offensive rebounder himself. So Dave's got to be careful not to pick up any cheap fouls, because when he goes out of the game, obviously Mitch Lightfoot comes in and he can hold his own. But I do think the team is better when David is in there, because David can score it with his back to the basket. He'll get on the offensive glass. He just plays hard.
You talk about rebounding there. Look what Jalen Wilson's done, especially these last few games on the boards. For a guy of his size and a frame like his, there are special mentality or maybe a more active thought toward crashing the board, because it doesn't necessarily come, again, for somebody, not him specifically, for his size, is a natural thing. How do you maybe get into that mindset where 10, 12 boards a game is natural anymore?
Yeah, I don't know Jalen personally, but just from observation and watching so many games, Jalen seems to have a mentality of, I want to do anything that I possibly can to help my team win. And obviously from being held out, for missing so many games, it took him a little while to get his legs underneath him, both from a shooting standpoint, from a scoring standpoint. I would argue even from an attack standpoint, his timing, his balance just wasn't there. And I think as we see him get more comfortable, it's shown itself more prominently in his rebounding, and then all the rest of it's going to come. But as I see him, he's capable of being an 8, 9, 10 rebound guy every night. I mean, he's a special one. He's my height at 6'8". He can handle it. He can drive it. He can pass it. He can shoot the three. He can play with his back to the basket. There's not much out on the floor that he can't do. So I'm not surprised that he's rebounding at the clip that he is, especially when David's out. He's rebounded it really well.